Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay at home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
So one of the things that we decided prior to getting married is that divorce was not in our vocabulary. And I come from my parents being married for 40 years. His are right at the same time frame.
Coming up on 42 years.
Yeah. And grandparents who were married for ages. So when we started our marriage, I remember one of our first fights being just very loud and argumentative and mean, honestly. And he said, well, why don't we just get a divorce? And I'm like, you just took the sword, stabbed it into my heart, twisted it around, and pulled it right back out.
This was 13 years ago, by the way, just so everybody's aware.
Yes.
Yeah. Live and learn.
This was not today.
Had it been today, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. We'd still be fighting. But it's because we'd had that preset determined no divorce. He went to the quick with it, and I'm like, you can't do that. That's not allowed. You just crossed a boundary, and you have to pay the consequences now. And I think it took us a day or two to really finish working that out, because we were not as skilled and experienced.
Well, we also went back to a conversation that had took place about fighting fair. So
Yes.
that was their part of it.
Yes.
But we'll pause for a second. And I just want to welcome everybody to the show. Tonight's a special night because it's not just me and Danny. We've got our wives. We've got our wives with us here tonight to talk about some topics that they need perspective. Maybe need to.
Is this an adult show?
Oh my gosh, this is awesome! This is gonna be so much fun. It's also being put on video too, so we're good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
so
it's all been put up on YouTube. So you can tell Danny's been keeping track of what's been being put up on social media.
Well, they're also in Georgia and we're in Ohio, so
I know. No, what's that mean? He doesn't have internet?
no, it just means that we're not in the same place. Socially distanced appropriately, several states apart,
okay.
right?
I thought you meant like
okay.
we weren't catching up on the YouTube
I was
uploads because we're in Georgia and y'all ain't got no good internet down there.
It's late, folks. It's late. It's
so late.
It's been a day. Well, anyway, thanks for tuning in to today's show. Like I said, it's going to be a special episode where we're going to talk about things that involve relationships and how to go about having conversations with your partner, your spouse, about things like, hey, I need a break, or maybe just having some differences on where you are mindset wise with different topics and things like that. So, but that's what we're going to be discussing. But, one thing that we always like to do before that is, Danny, how was your day?
It was horrible, but that's fine. I've got just another day, in the book, so to speak. I'm ready for it to be over. Nothing big or major happened, just not feeling well. And honestly, my two older kids were just a little, they never asked to stay home from school. They're really good. I mean, they'll tell me they don't want to go, but they never say, hey, can I stay home? And they never fake. And they just weren't feeling well. And honestly, right here in the hope ending phase of the quarantine, I kept them both home. And they slept in and they slept for a very long time. And then they got up and they were bouncing off the walls and they've been driving me crazy ever since. And I feel like, why didn't I send you to school? You're fine, aren't you? But other than that, it's been great. Haven't gotten any housework done. Have got very, very few, they're all fed and alive. So it's a win. How about you?
I'm good. That usually when kids start acting like that, we look at each other and go, "They're growing," like attitudes and just okay, they're gonna sleep a long time. So I feel you there. But I'd say today was pretty good. I've been productive and also like working through just some like mental things, but all in all, it's been a pretty good day so far. So I can't complain. I think my wife's had a busier day than I have, honestly.
Are you going to introduce us to your listeners?
Oh
'Cause
yeah, no, that's
they don't
probably
know our
that's
names.
probably a good idea. So
We
yes.
don't want to just throw that in. That's a very special thing. You got to build up to that. That's why he didn't do it. He would have done it for anybody else, but the
She's-
wives,
of course.
it takes
Well,
some.
Well,
Yeah.
see what it is though, like I usually steal her thunder, so she's just trying to get one over on me since she's on one of my platforms. But no, yeah. So the other voice that you're hearing today is my wife Corey, and Danny. Do you want to introduce your wife?
Absolutely. This is my wonderful, amazing, beautiful wife, Marnie.
Oh, he one-upped you.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't help it, man. Again, once you've been married another, I don't know, bunch of years, you'll realize how often you got to say that or they'll kick you out. No. This is my wife, Marnie. We've been married for 15 years, 16 years, 15, 16, something like that. Been a while. Yeah. And she's a wonderful, amazing person. She's working remotely. And so we're currently in her office. I steal it every time we do a podcast. And for that, I'm very grateful. So
When I'm working, there's a beautiful green screen behind me. So that's why the green curtain cloth there.
I just like a green curtain. It's good. Goes in my eyes.
I just figured it was just all the Irish or something, or Celtic coming out. I don't know.
Sure, something.
Something along those lines.
Whatever it takes. What gets me whiskey? I don't care.
There you go. That works too. Yeah, my wife, she's been working from home too since March.
Yes, my company on March, I don't know, 17th said, see you in 30 days. And 9 months later, and we
Yeah.
still don't have a return date. Thankfully, I have a space down in our basement to just hole up and not be interrupted most of the time. But our house is built in 1942, so I hear everything still.
Like little elephants running around upstairs.
Yeah.
Our company was the same. They sent us home in early March and said, hey, you're going to go home for a couple months. And fast forward now, and I work for a Fortune 200 company. I absolutely love it, but there is no slowing down whether you're at home or not. And
Right.
And now they've said, well, we've decided that we're going to really look at alternative ways of working across the company for the forever, basically, and
Yeah.
how we can rethink what office space looks like and all of that. So I'll be home until at least July, I think now is what they've said, when we'll start kind of maybe opening up the buildings again.
It's the best. It's the best.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat, a Fortune 500 company, and one of the few companies I think through this pandemic that has been growing, and we can't hire fast enough, and they're
Nice.
rethinking the entire model of the industry and saying, what can we do to stretch and grow and hire more people? And do they really need to physically sit in our buildings? In addition to that, they're remodeling buildings because they're empty.
Yes,
Yeah.
ours too. I feel really fortunate, in that I am with a company that is doing decently in the pandemic, and we make toilet paper, so that tells you, like, okay, we're having a good year. But
Yes.
unfortunately, it's at the expense of everything else that's going on out there. So
Mhm.
you don't want to say that too loudly.
I was gonna say, yeah, you say that on a podcast. Next thing you know, Danny's DM is gonna explode with, "How do I get toilet paper?
Where are the free
Send me
samples?
the Charmin bear now." I don't know. I really don't know if that's what company she works for, folks. I'm just putting it out there. So, but yeah, no, I think that though, this is the thing that we've been talking about, Danny, is the fact that no better group of people probably is more prepared for this situation than stay-at-home dads, or even maybe just, stay-at-home parents in general, really, with the idea
Yeah.
of being supportive towards the working spouse, and then also to just being able to juggle the kids and everything else. Depending on what the setup is, you get some of these dads who definitely you hear where they're in maybe a 2-bedroom apartment in New York. I know a couple guys like that particular, and wow, props goes out to them for however they're juggling kids and trying to keep them away from the spouse that's
Right.
behind the other door that they know it's like the dragon's in there. Don't go in there. Like, you know,
Don't wake him
burn
up.
the doorknob is lava, not the floor anymore. It's the doorknob.
I was in the bedroom for the first part of it, and Danny came in one day and he said, "Hey, you know, what do you think about maybe cleaning out the master closet? We'll make that your office." And I'm like, "Yeah, I really don't think that's a good idea." And then like a week later, he comes in and he just starts cleaning it out. He's like, "No, we're moving you into the
You're going in the
office."
hole.
Like, okay.
All right, Harry, it's going to be underneath the cupboard for you.
It's going to be a little cramped. We'll put you a fan in there and a couple of lights. In our we say a master closet. I mean, it's really not huge by any stretch. I mean, I don't think it's really big enough for two people to like store all their stuff in. But realistically, it was a nice, quiet place that we can kind of get her away from everybody. And now we have two doors between her and the kids and I and what have you, which is good. And her, I think too, we were able to set up make it an office, with an actual desk, and, the extra monitor to go with a laptop and some paintings on the wall, not paintings, but whatever those things are, plates on the wall, just to make it look a little, I don't want to say paintings like we have a red wall on this wall.
He's got the Picasso on the wall.
Got a local
really
artist,
fancy.
yeah. They did bananas on this wall and a fruit basket, but
time melting.
just time melting.
Chiquita banana.
Yeah.
Chiquita banana.
He came in here today. He's like, "I can't believe you don't have a clock, a clock in here. How do you live like that?" I'm like, "I live my day in half-hour or hour-long increments. I always know what time it is."
Yeah.
She's from the Fast and the Furious business side of it. I live a half hour at a time instead of a quarter mile at a time.
Not to mention, there's these great things called computers that tell us the time.
Okay, but
Outlook reminders.
Oh man, we are going down quite the rabbit hole. All right. Well, just to kind of pull us back out of this a little bit, I think that with the fact that, we're talking about time spent and how that's going on, and we're definitely couples who are very much stretched with our time and what we're doing and things like that. I think the question that was asked by one of the guys in the National At Home Dad closed Facebook page or group was a question of, how do I talk to my spouse or partner about taking a break and not and on top of that, there was a part of there that was like he felt like there was like a disservice of some sort that was being placed towards his spouse and asking that. And I think that we've discussed self-care a little bit in past things and whatnot, but what does that look like for you guys? Like, so I know you've been in the game a lot longer than I have as a stay-at-home dad, Danny. And so I'm just kind of curious, like, what was that question or what was that conversation like, and how did you bring it up to Marna?
One of the, I think one of the first times, and I keep talking about the convention, but was in the first convention in Raleigh. And the biggest thing that I felt was, am I leaving my kids? Am I abandoning my kids? Just like I'm out, and how selfish I was being at wanting a little bit of time away from myself. And I think that may be a part of a thing that most of us, since we're caretakers, we want to take care of people. And again, talking about self-care, but the conversation for us, I think it's probably more just open and direct with Marnie and I. Marnie's got a very, very analytical mind, and she's always problem solving. She's always giving me answers to problems. And I have more of I just need to talk. I just need to just all my stuff out. And then maybe I'll need, if I need something, I'll ask you for something. Yeah. Right. And most couples, I think each person falls into one of those. So for Marnie and I, it basically came down to both of us realizing that I just wasn't getting, refreshed, recharged. It was a constant grind. And I was very fortunate in that I think she saw it probably quicker than I did. And mentioned, I don't know who mentioned the convention first, but that was my first time away from anybody. And
well, that's what I'm curious of that. So Marnie, what kind of was your thought process, or what did you observe and see in Danny kind of come to this point where you're like, hey, he might need a break?
I mean, I think he probably is correct when he said I saw it before he did, because yeah, of course you need a break. And you know, if you're not taking the time to recharge, you're not going to be the type of parent that you want to be, and you're going to be more on edge, and you're going to be more frazzled. And so you know, I don't always do a great job at giving him the space to do that by any means. But when it comes to the convention, especially, I'm like, no, absolutely. You are going, you know, we've bought the plane tickets 6 months ahead of time. That's happening for sure. And then kind of on a day-to-day basis, it you know, I think sometimes I almost encourage him to go more often even, because it just makes sense to me that he would need kind of that time away. I think I was lucky too in that I grew up in a house where my mom stayed at home, and I watched her do things for self-care. So I knew that Wednesday night was bowling night for my mom, and she was leaving on Wednesday night, and that happened for my entire childhood, and that was her chance to get away. And have a break. And I didn't realize that as a child. I wanted to go with her, of course. But then reflecting on it in my own relationship, it's like, yes, of course you need a break. You know, otherwise you're gonna reach your breaking point, and you're gonna be tired, and you're gonna be upset. And it's a very natural thing for me. So I don't know that we ever had to sit down and have an actual conversation about how to work that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't know if there was a way where, like, was there any time where it'd be like, oh, like, he's getting time away, I'm not getting time away. Like, I mean, what's that balance? Is there a balance? Like, are you getting time away? Like, this, of course, we'll say pre-COVID.
I was gonna say,
now it's like, no, we're all locked in this sardine can together.
World, nobody's leaving.
Yeah, nobody's.
She gets to go into the other end of the house once in a while.
And my office is a significant distance from our house. So it's an hour and 15-minute drive with no traffic. And we live in the Atlanta area, so there's never no traffic. So for me, I got an hour and 15 minutes of silence if I wanted it. On the way to work, on the way home from work, I could listen to a book, I could call my mom. I get that sort of me time in the car. So there wasn't really a need to be resentful. I will say for me, the difficult part is probably I'm an introvert, and I come home and I'm immediately in a house that now has 6 people in it. And I have a couple children who like to just talk all the time. And then there's my husband who doesn't get to talk to an adult all day long. And so when I come home, it's very exciting because now there's an adult here. Yes. And I'm just like, I just need like 10 minutes by myself.
That was difficult. That was very difficult.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that there's a very similar context with us in that as well. So not as long of a drive, but
but can you imagine every day, twice a day, you get an hour and 15 minutes. Now you're in traffic, so it could be stressful, but that's it. Nobody saying dad. Yeah.
You can turn the music up and listen to it loud and
whatever you want.
Windows down on a nice day. Yes,
Right.
I miss my commute sometimes.
Yes.
Instead of 2 seconds from downstairs to upstairs.
Yeah, the commute thing came to pass with us one day early on in the pandemic when she came upstairs and me and my youngest attacked her.
Upstairs to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, y'all need to back up.
We were being like,
I can't,
let me tell you this.
No, this is not time for you. This is time for me to take a break from my work.
Yeah. And that's hard, really difficult. And I think too, it comes down to the communication, being able to calmly, if possible, lovingly, you still love this person, you still care for this person, but you need your own care. I need a minute. I need an hour. I got to go whatever. I got to go stand in the yard and just scream at a tree. I don't know. But, and understanding that it goes both ways. So, for me, obviously I'm the extrovert. I always talk to everybody. I've never met a stranger. And Marnie is just like, who are you talking? Why are you talking to? Who is that guy? I don't know. I just met him. His name's Pat. He's from Florida.
This is why Danny and I get along so well, because we're soul brothers.
Can we go to the grocery store and just buy groceries? Do we have to talk to the people that are in the grocery store?
Yes, that's why we're there.
Yes.
You know that? No, you don't know that person. When I was talking to Danny about this earlier too, is I think 2 things important with the break conversation is one, one, you don't wait until you're at level 10
Yes.
to have the conversation, because nothing ever goes well when
Right.
everybody's already tired and
Yep.
you're up here. So to the extent that you can, have things planned out in advance, and I'm a planner, of course, so that works well in my wheelhouse. But then too, I need a break doesn't always sound like those words, I need a break. It might be, pick up pizza on the way home tonight, please. Or
Yeah.
it might
Yeah.
be me learning to let go when I come home and maybe the dishes aren't done, or, you know, whatever thing it is. You know what? It doesn't matter. We made it through the day. Everybody's alive.
Yeah.
You know,
Or
this-
or hey, go sit on the couch and watch some TV, and I'll go take care of the kids and put them to bed.
Mhm.
Or I will cook dinner tonight, and you walk away for a minute. Similar,
Well, I was going to go back to like, so for us,
yeah.
when this all started, I think you had really good perspective, because I
When
was concerned with how is that going to work with time and getting things away, because especially
pause for a second. When what started? You staying at home or
Yeah.
the pandemic?
no, when I start, we're not talking about the pandemic.
Just clarifying.
Anyway, when I started staying home, there was like, okay, how is this all going to play out? And also too, like there was the conversation of when City Dads invited me to go to the Dad 2.0 summit the
Mhm.
first time, and I was like, there's no way this is going to happen. Like, how's that? And you came to me and said something that was just very like, it's always stuck in my brain. And
I don't know what I said.
she doesn't know. Shoot, I'm just kidding. No, you said that basically that this was my job, and just like any job, there are times where there's a
Yeah.
need to travel and a need to grow in your profession and in your career.
Develop
Is-
training.
And
Yeah.
so going to the Dad 2.0 summit and going to Home DadCon were those kind of things that you're like, these are essential things that need to happen. And that's of course like on a, every 6-month basis based on those conferences. But into that, you made it known that things like, all right, he's stressed out. There was one time I was so stressed out, I felt so debilitated. She ended up texting our good friend and was like, hey, what are you doing right now? He's like, I'm just
Yeah.
up here hanging out. And like, he's like, I'm sending Brock to you. And so she comes down into the garage and I'm just like twiddling around. And she's like, go to
Oh,
David's
he was
now.
so angry that night about some random thing. But even prior to you starting your stay-at-home dad role, context, I have a master's in counseling. So I understand that my husband is now jumping into a role that is drastically different than anything he's ever done as a primary caregiver to our children who are young and need a lot of love. And I'm just literally not going to be here to support you day in and day out in the moment. And I said, if you're going to do this, you need other men who are doing it with you to build your community, to build your support structure. Because number one, I'm a woman and I'm not a man. I don't understand everything that you're going to go through. And number two, I just can't do it. I can't be that person and do my job as well and bring home the bacon.
It's good bacon too.
He's the one that goes grocery shopping, not me. But it's talking about, how do you get that support? How do you meet the needs that your spouse can't meet for you? Where do you fill in the gaps? The other thing in terms of taking a break, pre-scheduled, weekly,
Yes.
monthly.
Yeah, we share a calendar. It helps out tremendously.
Anytime I have an appointment, I put it on my Google Calendar. I invite him so that he can see it and that we're, again, on that same page. But Monday nights, I have Bible study. That is my break. It's all Zoom right now, which is so frustrating. But I get time with other adults who are not living in my house.
Yeah.
And he has to have something like that as well, because he is that extrovert. He needs it more than I do. And currently I am training 40 people at work. So I'm inundated with adult conversation.
Right. So that's why I restarted back up the Dad Chat Hangout on Monday night, so that guys have a place to go to, and I get a chance to talk with other guys for a couple hours. So yeah, that works out really well. But yeah, I mean, it's just different stuff like that. I think that, to me, I find it interesting. You hear different guys talk about it too. You know, their spouse, partner basically doesn't seem to be able to switch the idea of what that time of break looks like, and I guess, for lack of better words, the fairness in it. Like, oh, you're gonna go do this, but you know, I'm gonna be here with the kids. Like, yeah, I've been here all day with the kids. Like, you could spend some time and love on them too. You know, I get it. Like, and it's just the whole, but it's a different. It's, I guess, trying to switch the brain into the different types of interactions that you have throughout the day, whether it be from working and getting to contact with other adults, and then the stay-at-home parent getting the opportunity to also get that contact in some way. And it can be balanced in different ways. Like, whether it's just, hey, like, go for a walk around the neighborhood, to, hey, why don't you go to the, you know, local brewery and have a drink with the guys and hang out for a couple hours or whatever it is.
I think the root cause of the discord is jealousy in this conversation. Like, I work all day. I talk to people all day long. It's refreshing in many ways and exciting. And then he gets to go out with his friends and have a beer. And I'm like, well, I didn't get to see my friends.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. That's not fair. So there are those days when he's planned a getaway and I'm sitting at home on the couch reading or watching TV.
Binge watching Hulu. Let's just be honest here.
But to be really honest,
there was a book there. Is what her drink was sitting on.
Or
there was a book. It was involved.
Yes.
But
yeah, like, digital reading is still reading. Come on.
Facebook is reading.
Facebook is reading.
It has book in the word.
But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
But yeah, it's just jealousy. Like, I want what you're experiencing, or especially this year, I want to get out of my house. I walked out onto my porch for 5 seconds today, and that's the extent of me leaving my house at the moment. And I feel a little bit like a hermit. So on days when he goes grocery shopping, I'm like, man, to go grocery shopping.
Yeah, I get it. I mean,
she also,
I love my grocery shopping.
Yeah, but she also understands that you're putting yourself in harm's way when you go grocery shopping at this point in time, too.
Yeah.
Right.
I think for me too, it comes in recognizing that, for good or ill, there are many days in which I am probably the fifth child, and that he needs that break, from the messes that I don't clean up.
Have you been reading my private group posts
as well? And
this one's like that. I get you. I feel you.
What's really encouraging to me though is how much, like, when I talk about at work how my husband goes to a stay-at-home dad convention, they're instantly all over that. They're very supportive. You know, that support is out there. They think it's fantastic. Well, of course he is. He's growing his network. He's, getting some time away. He's getting to engage in something that is, uplifting to the spirit. And so, you
builds
said,
my career.
Yeah. Whether it, and sometimes it's that, and sometimes it's, he loves building fires. So it's go outside and split wood and build a fire. And that helps him, kind of recharge. And it's finding the small ways and the bigger ways.
Mowing the yard.
To get that break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mowing the yard. Yeah. That just whatever it is, it's self-care, even if it's work. But the big thing, I think, again, why is it a problem? Why do people have a problem asking for that break? Or why does that person, your spouse, let's say in this example, have a problem with you taking that break? And I think it's just like you said, it's that a little bit of jealousy. I've been working all day and now you're going to leave, and whatever you're going to do, it's still, you're giving me more work to do when I've worked my day already. And the understanding that, I think it was probably 6-7 years ago, someone was kind of, giving me a little, guff about being an at-home dad, how easy that is. And I'd love that job. And something to the effect of, have you ever had a real job, and something like that. And I've had a real job. I've got one right now. And I said, well, you work a lot of hours. He goes, yeah, man, I work 12, 14 hours in the summer. I'm like, yeah, I've done that. 14, 16-hour days. I mean, you're working through dark to dark. I get it. I've done it. And now I still do it. And when do you get to go home from work? And he's like, it could be 6, 7 o'clock. And I'm like, yeah, I don't go home from work. I haven't gone home from work in, I don't know, 12 years or something. It's that understanding that your house, your home, you love it, your family, you love them. But those are the things you spend so much time with that you need a break from. And it's so easy to look at that and go, what? You've been here. You're doing stuff, but I've been working all day. I mean, I'm stressed. I am, anybody that's working these days outside the home or remotely or what have you, it's a lot of stress on them. And like you said, and you're going to go get a beer or you're going to go bowling. What? That's not fair.
Well, and I don't know about you, but I'm working more now that I'm at home than I was before. Yeah, absolutely. And there are many days when I am in the closet in the office at 6:30 in the morning, and I always worked kind of early, so that's not particularly unusual for me. But I don't come out until 5 o'clock, and I probably didn't have lunch, or I will text Danny in the day and then feel guilty about it because, again, 5th kid. But I'm like, could you please bring me some food? I just I don't have time to do this, and he's a good sport about it. And
we already have it planned. I got her food at least one meal a day because she won't take the time or can't take the time. And how very demanding that is. But again, it comes down to our love for the other person, and then our trust of the other person, and then our ability to communicate honestly. And looking at having an issue with asking for a little break, I really think that's something that you ought to look at your communication and say, what is it that makes it so difficult for me to just say to the person I love more than anyone on this planet, that hopefully loves me just as much, hey, sweetie, I need a break. So, and I'm not saying it was always not saying that at all, but you need to work on those lines of communication to be able to say, look, this is where I'm at. Or conversely, for me, like as a primary caretaker, we mentioned Marnie not eating and she doesn't, me coming in and going, okay, so I got to make lunch for the kids. I got 2 at home. So, I got to make lunch for them. I'm going to make lunch for myself, and I'm going to make some for her. And it's usually not what I'm feeding the kids. And honestly, it's not what I'm eating either, because I'm usually eating what the kids don't eat, they're leftovers. So it basically means making at least 2 meals for one meal time. But that understanding of where she's at and what she's doing, even if she really doesn't ask for it on a regular basis at all, but looking at what your spouse, the person you love, needs, and saying, here, I'm going to give this to you even before you, or if you don't ask for it, I know you need it, I'm going to give it for you. And that's kind of the thing that you build your relationship on, so that when you're pulling your hair out as a stay-at-home parent and you're losing your mind, your spouse has the ability to just come in and say, whoa, okay, why don't you go sit on the porch? Or why don't you go see your friend? I'm going to call your friend like you did. I'm going to call your friend, and you're going over there. And you just need to get out of here.
Or is there just something you want to go do, take a couple hours and just go do it? Like, I think even there, like, hey, like, do you want to go just take a drive, or do you, is there something that you want to go do right now? You want to go to the bottle shop and grab a couple of beers or something like that to bring back to the house, enjoy later, whatever it is. Definitely. I couldn't agree more. I think having that insight to be able to see that.
Well, and it's an ongoing conversation. So as Marnie mentioned, you need to have some sort of conversation when you're level-headed and you're on this even playing field, not in the middle of a fight, and just say, hey, I've self-reflected. I've thought about my needs. I've thought about the days when I'm really just at my end and what would be the most helpful for me in that moment. And helping your spouse understand that on the days when I just don't have any words, I'm like at a 10 and I can't express that I need a break. If you can see me and encourage me to do that, giving me space to do that is humongous.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And not taking offense to it, because we're all
Yes.
human. We all get tired and grumpy and irritated. And no matter what role you play, whether it's working or at home, or maybe you do both, we have to take time to take care for ourselves and return the favor to the ones we love the most.
Mhm.
Um,
Well,
it's
that's the thing. So you tend to what I like, there are times where like, because we share a schedule, like there'll be times where I'll have like all kinds of stuff on there, just spread out throughout the month or whatever it is. And eventually she'll get to the point where she'll look at it and be like, you're gone like every, like once a day, like at least one night every week or whatever it is. And you can see like there's a little bit of agitation in it, but it's like she knows that it's needed, but at the same time there's agitation. And
Mhm.
for me, like I've gotten to the point where I'm like, all right, like I need to somehow help her create,
I'm so bad
'cause she-
about scheduling time for myself.
create some
Yeah.
time for her to be able to have some sort of connection or get out, whatever it looks like. And so like I've been like, hey, why don't you call up so and so? Or in this situation, we got to talking, and she had noticed like the times I was hanging out on Zoom, and she decided to get a hold of a few of the ladies from church and was like, hey, like let's do a wine and hang out on the Zoom type of thing. So
Mhm.
and just chit chat for a few hours. And so she started doing stuff like that. But it's things like that where it's like having that ability to sort of step back and be like, all right, like maybe there is a bit of time that I'm taking that I maybe need to look back and see how can I also love my spouse, my partner, by
Right.
giving her just even an open door to say no if she wants to, but to also take that
And
opportunity to
not
be
be
like,
offended by that.
right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will
Um,
say too, this, well, again, pre-COVID, was the first time, because my daughter has turned 14 this year, and so she was probably 13 pre-COVID, but was the first time then that we could actually go out together. Which is like a whole new dimension,
Yeah.
without having to find a babysitter or get anyone else involved. Just, hey, Alex, you're responsible, and we're going to a movie. And it's like, wow, I
Yeah.
remember why I married you. I
Yeah.
actually do kind of like you. That's nice. Even
Parenting
with the
goals.
pandemic, we went out one day a few months ago and just said, oh, we're just going to take a drive and go look at some houses. And I was like, wow, leaving the house
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
together,
drive around
no
and
kids. This is awesome.
Well, we've gone on a few different like vacations without the kids, and the kids, like I think on the last one we're like, why are you guys are leaving? And it's like, well, yeah, and you're going to be hanging out with like your favorite people in the world here at the house, like, but the thing that we tell them is hey, there's going to come a point where you guys are not going to be around because you're going to be grown up and you're going to be out of the house and you're going to have your own adult lives going on. But mama and I, like, we need to continue staying connected because our marriage is
yes.
very important to keep that
If
going.
this doesn't work, they don't get what they need.
Because I don't need to be 25 years into this, and when the kids are gone, look across the table and be like, "Who are you? What do we?
Right.
We ran all the munchkins around, but like kind of So I think
Mhm.
that's the other big key that I tell a lot of couples that, because they tend to like. So I used to drive for Uber, and I would get all kinds of relationship questions from young people. It was hilarious. I mean, I always just
Young
called it.
people, no, all kinds of people.
Well, all kinds of people, but mostly like college age students a lot of times. But they were newly married, and they were like, what's the special sauce to it? How's that work? Or
Yeah.
and I always just say, like, it's communication,
Mhm.
and it's not forgetting that you need to continue to date your spouse, like whatever that looks like, because if you have kids, like they get in the way, but
They really
do.
in a good way. But at the same time, like, you have to be able to still have that connecting time with your spouse that
And-
doesn't
Yeah.
involve them.
It ebbs and flows, and sometimes the way that looks is just a fire in the backyard after
Mhm.
they've gone to bed, or just a walk down the street to
Mhm.
walk the dog as they're watching some TV. And it's the little moments that add up to the years of marriage, and eventually you can look at person and say, hey, I still love you. That's awesome.
And you're modeling for your kids
Right.
Mhm.
what a good relationship should
Mhm.
be. You're modeling, you're looking and you're showing them, look, honest, open communication is the only way this is going to work. Not being jealous, or if you are jealous, say that.
Mhm.
Look at the other person and go, I'm happy that you're going to go do your thing, whatever it is, but I'm jealous. I want to go. I want to get out. And being
Yeah.
able to say, even, I don't want to go with you. Even
Mhm.
I want to have my own thing, because we are all still individuals. We'd still need our recharge time, whatever that might be, depending on who you are as a person. But you're showing your kids, this is how we operate as a loving couple.
Mhm.
We are far more than just mom and dad.
Yeah.
And that's fine if that's all they see you for even your whole life. But hopefully, just the first 20 years, they figure out, oh, you're people. Oh, cool.
Yes. Yes.
But having that ability to give them such a solid example, or give them a not so great example and then fix it and
Yeah.
show them,
And-
the first time I asked for a break, your mom lost her mind. She was, what are you talking about? You don't do anything. And I started, it got us both upset. We were yelling, we were fighting, and this is what happened. We're butting heads, but we
Mhm.
love each other more than we love ourselves. And we stopped and said, them's fighting words, and I didn't want to fight you. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I'm sorry I did this. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I was
Yeah.
angry. It is an underlying situation where, like, I am jealous that you're getting to go out. I want to go out too. And I'm sorry that I said you're a giant, whatever, slacker, because you're going, leaving me here,
Yes.
but giving your kids that example still of, this is what love looks like. This is what a
Mhm.
relationship looks like. This is what a couple looks like. It's fantastic and an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, and not only letting them see the argument, but the resolution.
Yes.
And
And sometimes that's a child. We made up.
oh Lord.
I'm just kidding.
No,
Sorry. I'm like holding
absolutely
back.
not.
Marty and I have had 4 fights in our life.
Nope.
Anyway.
We've had 2 trips to bourbon country.
All right.
Anyway, but like so many times as a kid growing up, I would see my parents argue and see the coarse environment, but I didn't always get to see the resolution. And honestly, my parents were not the best examples of resolution. And to this day, they're not. So I've had to work really, really hard to change my upbringing and to say, no, I'm going to do this differently. I'm making a choice, a conscious effort to do the resolution piece and let my children see that as well. And it's not just in the marriage or spousal relationship that comes into play. That's in school when they're surrounded by their peers. It's going to be in their jobs where maybe they have a colleague that they really don't like but have to get along with. It's not just here and now. It's the future dividends that will come into play.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Every relationship you'll ever be in, every single one has that basis of how do I operate with another human being? How do I continue to be honest without hurting their feelings? And even if you don't like them, especially like you said at work, you don't want to hurt their feelings. You want to make them mad. You want to upset them. How do I resolve that conflict? How do I do it without, pitching a fit like a little kid, and that's what a lot of times adults will do. They just get, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I'm taking my ball and going home. And, well, no. Let's move past that. Deep breath. And this is how I'm going to talk to my coworker next time, instead of telling him I'm taking his stapler and leaving.
Adults do not yell at each other in the workplace.
Yeah, adults do not yell at each other.
It's
Well, I've heard this many times where I was talking to Pat Jacobs a while back, and he was just talking about the fact, he's like, I can just see you and your wife are on the same page with how you guys interact and the way that you talk about how you move through conversations and things like that. And I think that that's really one of the key elements to this whole conversation is being on the same page. Like, for real, like if you get off of the same page, like if you're not on the same page, you'll know it. because when you're on it, the conversations,
Yes.
they might seem like, oh, this is going to be tough, but it actually turns out to be a really solid and healthy conversation. When you're off, oh my gosh, like it's horrible. I mean, you
Well,
feel
there's
gutted and everything else.
fear and anxiety
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
frustration, anger, all of those things come into play, and you can't sit in that because it just gets bigger and bottled and
Well, and I think that
explodes.
comes down to difficult conversations of all types, especially right now. The other side to this is that, you know, you've got couples who maybe they're not seeing eye to eye on how to process through this pandemic right now. You know, like
Mhm.
one spouse is like, I want to be with my family for the holidays, and the other spouse is like, I don't think that's the greatest idea. Like,
Yeah.
just saying.
We've had
And
that conversation.
yeah, and so I think that it all just comes back to being on the same page. Like, hey, like, I love you. Yes, I understand you want to see your family, but for our family, what is the best thing currently? Whatever it is, like, you know, you could have family that are like, well, we want you to come do this. Like, this could be after the pandemic. Like, we want you to be involved in this, or we want to go do this. Like, those are great things. You know, I'm sure that we would enjoy that as well. But then there's a huddle that needs to take place. And it's like, all right, like, is this beneficial to us? Is this going to somehow like cause a rift with us as far as like financially or emotionally and doing these things? Because if the answers are yeah, then you have to really evaluate, like, is this worth it to like cause more just frustration
Discord.
and discord
Mhm.
within our marriage? Like,
Yeah.
you know, because yes, you do marry, when you marry your spouse, you do marry the in-laws, but
For
they
the
don't
record, I love my in-laws.
but they don't
For
control
the record, I love my in-laws as well.
but they don't control
Marnie.
how you as a
I also love my in-laws.
Ouch. So did you see that?
he's,
Wow.
he's ignoring it too. So
You're just moving along then. Sorry, Brock. You keep going. I'm going to cry.
anyway, but I think that, oh my gosh, he's got me all. Anyway, but I think that when you keep in the mindset that it's your family. So for instance, you know, there are times where you don't need to go travel all the time to go see family for holidays. Like, maybe you just need to like
Yeah.
concentrate on your like immediate family, just you the spouse and the kids. Like,
I told him
doing
years
something.
ago that I'm like, I don't want to travel for Christmas. I don't want to be away from our home on Christmas morning. I want our children to have good, solid memories. And his
Nice.
family is Northern Indiana. My family is Illinois, like almost Iowa. So regardless, we'd have to travel. And I love my siblings and my niece and nephews and his family as well. But what is more important to me is that my children have these memories, these foundations to build from, and make it a priority, because ultimately he's usually number one and they're 2 and 3. But
I'm 1.5. She's 1.
whatever. It's a hard
Good work, Brock. Good work.
conversation. How do you navigate that? And not only your same page here, but how do you talk to your extended family about that
Well,
and
and
staying firm?
I think, Brock, you hit it earlier when you said, too, it's about those points where you are not on the same page are where the fights happen,
Yeah.
the knockdown dragouts. And I think for Danny and I, probably looking at it is asking for a break is not the point where we're not on the same page. We're good there, but the really tough conversations have come when you're not. And I think, too, highlighting the difficulty that the pandemic has brought, you know, not only the public health crisis, but especially for us, all of us living in the United States, the myriad of other things that are going on. And I won't dig into them necessarily, but you know, we're in an election year and we've got, you know, very contentious situations that are happening. And if you're not on the same page as your spouse through all of the difficult things that are happening this year, especially, I can only imagine that those conversations are exacerbated. They are more difficult
Oh, yeah.
than they would be if we were not also in everything else that's going on.
Yeah. The beauty of the tough conversations, though, is that ideally, on the flip side, once it's resolved, you're in a better place and you know how to navigate a similar conversation in the future. So I mean, you might shy away from them, but they're inevitable.
Yep. That's a little trial of error. Well, that definitely wasn't the way.
So
Nope, wasn't that way either.
So I am curious. So because I think it's one thing for Danny and I to have, like I said, for us to have just come on and just had this conversation, just the two of us, and give our perspective to things. But my hope is that there are couples that are going to listen to this together. And I think that I see more times than not is a stay-at-home dad who is saying like that their partner doesn't get it, or that they're just not getting on that same page. I'd like to know what, like, I don't know, I guess like a little piece of advice that you would speak to that breadwinning mama or breadwinning spouse, whatever it is, like just what you would say to them, Marna, as far as kind of maybe just helping with this conversation. Starting the conversation, I guess.
To the non-breadwinning spouse or the
to the breadwinner.
Okay. Gosh, that one's a hard one. Okay, skip me here. You start.
I was going to say I might be able to.
Okay, fine. Corey, what would you say?
Thank you.
You people that have to think before you talk are hilarious.
Introvert.
I need time for it to come in.
Soak up from the
percolate.
roots.
Yes.
We have fruit.
Yes. Absolutely. I think that as the person who is working all the time, and I tend to get like blinders on and focused and in my own world, in my workspace, and I forget some of the challenges that he has to deal with. So I need a bit of a reality check, and he has to bring that to me. Because I'm not being observant, or I'm just clueless on all the fronts, or maybe something has come up outside of our family that has really triggered him and upset him. Like, I didn't have that same shared experience. So what I need from him is to really understand some of the things that are bothering him and come to me and say, hey, I just need to talk about this. And I need you to understand where I'm coming from. And then we can discuss different ways to support one another. And, you know, sometimes it's just me shutting up and letting him talk.
Yes.
Other times it's, okay, how do we adjust the schedule to make this thing fit? Or how can I role play a conversation with maybe another dad who is just having some difficulties, and he can take that back from our experience and give that dad some additional conversations or language skills.
And I thought of that too, as finally this percolated through my brain. The thing that I would say is that, you know, learning to have that communication in a relationship also comes down to learning to speak the language in the way that your spouse understands.
Yes.
And Danny and I have very different styles of communication, and we've talked about this many times, and he's probably mentioned it before to you too, Brock. But you know, I am a fixer. When he comes to me with a problem, yes, my desire is to, okay, well, have you, you know, taken an ibuprofen? You have a headache. You know, have you done A, B, and C? And he's looking at me like I have two heads, because all he wants is to be able to vent and have somebody listen and empathize. And I'm not great at that. And so, you know, learning to be able to say, okay, Danny's coming to me. He wants to talk to me. It's not about the problem. Don't try to fix this. Just listen to him and show and demonstrate that you understand his point of view. And learning to do that can be really tough.
And Danny, when she does that, how do you feel? How do you respond?
When she gives me a solution to the problem?
Well, no. That, and when she actually
I can tell you that.
Steps back and says, wait, he needs to fix he just needs me to listen. How do both sides?
Well,
So when she shows you
I'm a
empathy-
very direct person. I'm a very loud, obvious person. You know, you talk about people wearing their heart on their sleeve. That's me 100%. I mean, happy, sad, angry, whatever it is, you know. There's no doubt, you know, if you see me, you know what emotion I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. Very, very, very obvious. So I don't really have to say anything, but I always do because I have to talk like I am doing now. But when anybody, honestly, offers me help, I especially with Marnie, because she's my most resilient friend. You know, Marnie and I have been together long enough to where she knows that I need to just, like a rock, I just need to grind against, you know, that's not a good way to put that. I need to iron sharpens iron. Let's go biblical.
Yes,
Go biblical.
yes.
Okay, iron sharpens iron. There we go. Back on track. But I have to have somebody that I can bark at, you know,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
need her to be able to handle that. And she always has. She's a very strong, very resilient, amazing person in that way. But when she says, you know, even when she just offers a solution, when I haven't even asked, you know, told her what the problem is, you know, why don't you take an ibuprofen, or, you know, can I get you an ibuprofen? Even I'll look at her and go, you know what I'm going to do if I need an ibuprofen? I'm going to say, hey, Marnie, can you get me an ibuprofen?
Yeah.
And other than that, I don't need your help,
Mhm.
because for me, the feelings that I get almost immediately are, and this is long-term, you know, therapy stuff here, but I get an immediate feeling of she or anyone else doesn't believe that I'm capable of doing whatever
Yes.
the job is.
Yeah.
You know, well, here's I
Okay.
could get my own ibuprofen if I want an ibuprofen. I could you know, it just gets very blah, 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 just real quick. And that immediate feeling of
Escalated
powerlessness, but
emotion.
almost like vulnerability almost.
Mhm.
It's, you know, what, you think
Yeah.
I can't do this? So my self-worth kicks in real fast. And that, again, Marnie and I have talked about this for a decade at least. I mean, we've
Yeah.
been going over this for years and years, and my mental problems and such that and for both of us, learning what the other person means when they say things, as opposed to what I
Yeah.
feel. I feel you were telling me I was useless. And she's like, I love you and I want to help you, you know? And so learning that.
Mhm.
And then the other side of it is, and more often than not, she does this now, because we have little cues that we say to each other and what have you, when I just need you to listen, don't fix it. You know, we say it's not about the nail, you know, there's a nail in your forehead. No. I got a headache. I just want you to listen to that I have a headache. I don't want you to tell me about the nail. I don't want you to tell me to pull a nail out. No. I just need to talk. And so I look at her and go, this is not about the nail. And then I'll just like verbally
We're
vomit
stealing
all the words of the other things, you
Give
know.
the reset.
And until she has worked really hard to learn how to speak to me, also to learn how to listen to me. I feel that I probably am more the natural speaker, the natural listener. Well, I'm an extrovert. You know, my place in a room in a conversation is the person that's soaking up everything they can about who you are and what you need and how you feel. And I do that on a natural level. And this is not in any way a negative about Marnie. Hers is less natural and more learned. And she has, I mean, just constantly worked on learning how to listen to me, how to just let me blow off steam, as it were, how to let me just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Like I did,
Now, I will
you know.
say the one caveat to that is Danny gets hangry. And I have learned that
Guilty.
when someone is hangry, you come
Guilty.
armed with a cheeseburger.
Hey, cheeseburger. That's
I
cool.
want a cheeseburger.
You have to go into that conversation with the solution, because otherwise it's, Danny, do you need a cheeseburger? No,
I'm fine. I don't need anything. Maybe you need a cheeseburger. You know, what? I think you're being unreasonable.
She usually tells me that I'm going Betty White. This is what
No,
it is,
I
from the
don't.
Snickers commercial.
So
You
on
need a
the,
Snickers.
on the flip side, what I'm hearing is that you really appreciate and feel loved when she gives you those times, and just knowingly gives you time to just spew all of the things out
Absolutely.
about the migraine or the kids or the
Whatever.
dishes.
Mhm.
So that I completely agree. Like being able to know those little cues, to have those little couple moments of the nail. I'm stealing that. So stealing that. It's not
Send you
about the nail.
video. You should look
I'm
up the
s-
video. It's not about the nail. It is
really
the
good.
funniest thing and the most clarifying moment I've had for communication in the last 20 years. It's
you
amazing.
should tag it to your podcast.
Yeah, we'll get a link put in the show notes for that.
Cool.
And I've seen that because I remember seeing that in my educational career,
Mhm.
doing my counseling degree. And it's those little things, the triggers of, whoa, just shut up for a moment.
Mhm.
I love you, but I need you to listen to me. And
Mhm.
I'm the fixer.
yeah, he's the fixer.
Yeah.
Like,
Normally, I shouldn't say normally, that's a bad word to put, but usually in my experience, the man is usually the problem solver, is the
Mhm.
fixer. And that's been very interesting for me too, because of the, swapping gender roles and things like that. We have, for being an at-home dad, but also a lot of times when find myself surrounded by, not surrounded by, I shouldn't say it like that, but in a room with, I'm with all the wives and we're all just talking to talk. We're not fixing anything. We're not doing anything. We're not all
yes.
recipes. I just need to talk to somebody. You need to, let's just talk. And a lot of my dad friends are just like, what's wrong with you? Why are you just talking? I'm like, cause that's what I do.
Yeah.
It's what I am, So
There are also days when it flips
Mhm.
and I become the fixer and
Mhm.
he's the one that just needs to talk.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
That happens.
it is what it is. Like there's not any way around it.
Yeah.
And he has to tell me to be quiet
Yeah.
and move forward.
Well, hey, we're running up at the end of our time for this. This was a great conversation, honestly,
Mhm.
and I feel like it got answered pretty well. Hopefully, everybody that was listening got something out of it. Like I always like to say, if you've got questions or comments about what we've talked about, please leave us messages, leave comments so that we can take a look at that and address them later. But Marnie, thanks so much for coming on tonight, taking a little bit of time out of your long day, and Corey, thank you, my wife, for also doing the same. I know that it's been a long day, but we made it through, and I think deserve a little bit of just relaxation for the rest of the night. So for everybody that's listening, I hope this is a good conversation starter, and I hope you all got something out of it. Thanks for listening in, and I hope that you return for the next show coming up next week.